when you want to scale, even middle-sized, medium-sized to large environments, that allows you to really see everything in one view and troubleshoot and add that security to it from that product series.
You're listening to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro, the place to learn about new technology and technological advances before they become mainstream. This is the Cisco edition, taking your business a level up. Let's get into it.
Welcome to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro. I'm your host, Carrie Roberts, and our guest today is Dan Stewart, the Senior Business Transformation Engineer for Cisco Solutions at Ingram Micro. Welcome, Dan. So excited to have you here today.
Thank you, Carrie. Excited to be here myself.
So today we're chatting about enterprise networking. Can you tell us what enterprise networking is and how it applies to businesses?
Most definitely. So enterprise networking is what you would think of as the main connection points for your devices as you connect to your resources. Most of us use that to connect to things. But think of businesses, they want to connect to shared resources, applications, office communications, things of that nature. You need ways to connect everything to each other. So typically, an enterprise network would be comprised of the different components of network routers, network switches, and of course, wireless infrastructure, because most everything now is of a mobile environment, all wrapped with the blanket of security to make sure that your devices connect securely to the resources they want to access.
Now, I know Cisco recently worked with the annual gaming convention BlizzCon to create a network that powered demos, panels, and championship games. And BlizzCon hosted 35,000 people in person and another 10 million people globally watching online. That is a ton of people. Can you talk about how Cisco supports large-scale rollout events like this?
Most definitely. That's a pretty impressive conference, and Cisco puts on a few conferences like that, amongst others like Cisco Live they host for partners, where you do have these tens of thousands of people coming in, all looking to, again, access their resources, their connections to mostly the internet. And most people do that by way of wireless connections. And a lot of the support gets into that infrastructure. Where do we help place the right access points to cover the most amount of users, to give the most amount of performance to those devices, especially like convention halls? You want to have, how many, hundreds of people in one area, all with their phones out. And most times they have phones plus a smart watch or something, all communicating with data. That's a lot of pre-planning that you can take advantage of with things that Cisco has with regards to their wireless applications or wireless access points. All those connect to each other through their Cisco Catalyst switches that are, the robust infrastructure for their environments. All of that structure truly is managed by what Cisco is driving is that goal of an intent-based network driven by what they call their DNA Center solution or a digital network architecture. How they do that is saying, well, I got a lot of individual pieces, a lot of access points, maybe hundreds of access points that connect all these thousands of clients. How do I manage all of that? How do I see all that data? How do I make sure it's running smoothly? Or if I need to troubleshoot something, how quickly is it to go and find that issue, to remediate it, to actually have that best case user result? If you treated all these products that are part of that enterprise network as, independent components, it can become a very big challenge, especially when you have environments like this that have tons of guests and tons of expectations that Wi-Fi or wireless connection is just going to always work. So with things like DNA Center, which is a appliance-based solution today that allows you to see, monitor, manage all of your connections and components from one single screen, and then layer on a healthy dose of security components on top of that, allows you to scale up as far as you need because your management really becomes one source of truth.
No, I mean, that's incredible. And it's great that they're able to do something like that with such large conferences such as BlizzCon. Now, technology is always changing, and soon we'll have access to things like 5G and Wi-Fi 6. What is the difference between 5G and Wi-Fi 6, and why is it important to know about them?
Great question. So those are definitely great terms that are hitting our marketing, right? So we're seeing that from commercials. We're seeing our wireless providers come out and say, hey, 5G is the next way. And obviously, as numbers go up in our structure, that means you get bigger and better performance and features, right? So it's really not a tale of competing technologies. They're really looking at these technologies as complementary to each other. I'm going to start with Wi-Fi 6 first, because that's really more near to an enterprise network solution and something that actually you can traditionally control. You can buy your access points where that Wi-Fi 6 standard is coming from. And what happens is, over a period of time, we've seen access points get better and better performance. If you look at, maybe you're familiar with some wireless terminology, you've seen different letters like wireless N, wireless 802.11 AC, and now AX came out. And kind of what happened was all these letters were kind of confusing to the market. They don't know what was new, what wasn't new. So they went back and said, let's just number this from starting with 4, 5, and 6. And then if we can see the numbers go up, that just means you get bigger and better performance. What's transitioned to a little bit in Wi-Fi 6 is we've seen kind of a peak of performance for my devices interfacing with my access points that interface with the environment, that now we're trying to see, well, I have all these devices in my environment now than I ever had before. It's more than just a laptop or a cell phone. It's now tablets, you have smart watches, you have the IoT devices, all these sensors, all these things that you never had on a network before that are usually connecting over wireless. And what we've seen with Wi-Fi 6, and really the goal from it, is to use it as more of an efficiency play in a wireless space. We're not going to see massive improvements in performance, but we will see it as a better use of devices on the network itself, having a better experience. I can now have more IoT devices that play in a certain frequency of my network operate a lot more efficiently, and I can have my users that are streaming video online the same time that I have little devices like your thermostats that need very little data to be communicating simultaneously. And that's allowing us to have more and more devices, more and more communications, and able to now give us an overall better experience for the continued growth of wireless devices in my environment. So knowing that, with Wi-Fi 6, you actually have the ability to control that as a enterprise play. You can buy the latest generation Cisco Catalyst access points, or even the Meraki series if you want to go with the cloud managed offering. They do have their Wi-Fi 6 access points available today. Because of that, you can place them in your environment. You can also wait a little bit for the clients that are Wi-Fi 6 capable to take advantage of all those features. But even by putting the new ones in your environment, you can start seeing those benefits of performance, scale, and security with how you build out your enterprise infrastructure. But on the other side, you have 5G. 5G is a service provider service. You don't really have any control over the users on that shared space. So much like Wi-Fi 6, you're going to see improved performance, improved coverage in your buildings. It's going to have a little bit more area, but it's going to be a slower rollout. You don't have control of when that service is going to be in your city or in your area or provided by your different carriers that you may have only in your area, depending how remote or rural you may be. It may not reach your land for some time. So while it's great and something when it does exist, you can have a seamless experience of moving from a corporate-owned Wi-Fi 6, great, efficient, powerful experience. And then as you move out of your controlled business area, you can then move to your 5G, also high performance, high efficiency when you're in your car or between buildings or moving to different areas as a complementary technology. So that's kind of the landscape right now. Is Wi-Fi 6 is here. You can invest into it, and the clients are coming at a faster pace. Then you will see the 5G, which you have to wait for service providers to roll out, your clients to exist from the various manufacturers of phones. And then you have to look at things like sometimes battery power. Does 5G consume more battery than a more efficient Wi-Fi 6? That could be a continued story of how we leverage these different technologies in and out of their soon-to-be discovered best appropriate areas.
Before we jump straight back into today's episode, we wanted to let you know about one of the industry's most important events, Ingram Micro's One 2019 event on November 18th through November 21st at the Gaylord Rockies Convention Center. One is your chance to experience what's new and exciting in security, IoT, cloud, and more. Also, you'll be able to network with other businesses, industry experts, Ingram Micro associates, and our vendor partners. Contact your Ingram Micro representative for details on how to register today. All right, let's get back to the show.
I think that's a tremendous way to describe the difference. And, there's just so many things coming out with more and more devices to manage. How do you suggest that companies control their networks overall?
It kind of goes back to that BlizzCon conversation where we look at that large deployment of all my switches and wireless for that environment. And I mentioned that platform called DNA Center. Truly, that is the direction that Cisco is looking to go for seeing your campus-style environment. You want to add all of your devices, not just in one building, but you may have multiple branch offices, remote buildings, different sites across the country or across the world that you need to have visibility into. If you can move that into a single dashboard or a single pane of glass where you can see everything going on, you now have that ability to make those larger scale changes across the board. So you can now see when your software versions might be out of date and then push those out to your devices to make sure you're maintaining a level of security compliance. You can push entire feature updates to your devices with a few clicks, trying to really move yourself into more of an automated approach and less manual approach. Because if you can have a central manager, this DNA Center solution, work with your infrastructure and you kind of say, hey, I want this thing to happen. I have an intent. I have this goal for this configuration to be rolled out or this branch site to be brought up. If I had to do that manually, that's a lot of pieces, components, and sometimes, as we are prone to errors, things can happen by manual intervention. If I can have my devices talk to each other and work together to say, hey, this is the best way to approach this, and then do all those configuration commands for me. When I just give it a little bit of input, it can execute a lot of output. And now changes that could take a long time or in some cases are never going to happen because you're so reluctant to make a security patch for network outage, or you make a change to your device could have an issue with something else down the chain that you may not know about, because you're only looking at a certain point product. So when you want to scale, even middle-sized, medium-sized to large environments, that allows you to really see everything in one view and troubleshoot and add that security to it from that product series.
Yes, automation, saving time, efficiency, all incredibly important. And I know Cisco has a way of blending what is and what is next when it comes to enterprise networking. Can you talk about that solution, which is called Intent-Based Networking, and what it does?
Yeah, I kind of teased that a little bit in the last answer there. That really is built on some of the pillars that this DNA Center solution is really around. Is automation is a key piece of it. Like I said, you can start rolling out large-scale changes with just a few commands into the interface. Assurance is going to be a huge piece. And what assurance means from Cisco is time of troubleshooting to that issue resolution can be drastically reduced, because now you have full visibility to everything talking to each other and how it's connected, how it's controlled, and how it's seen. And the system even gives you paths for guided remediation. Like it can actually tell you, hey, I think this is happening because of this issue. Here's a fix we recommend to go do it. And here's the commands or here's the button we can do to give you that view to make those changes to this specific area. I've actually seen that myself in one of the environments that I run. We installed the DNA Center solution on top of our wireless network, just to get some visibility into clients connecting, the access points themselves, and it wasn't really very large. I just want to see it for the 2 access points in our office that we had control over. As soon as I brought that up and it learned information over the week, it was reporting that I had a high amount of wireless interference. And that was interesting because I never got any complaints from anybody in the area when they came in the office, they got on the wireless, they did what they did, and they left. And no one ever complained that something was wrong. But I go through and check the system, and it was telling me that, hey, this frequency was being overrun because of all the noise in the area. And we found out, and we kind of knew a little bit of this, but it was competing with some of our corporate wireless, a lot of our Bluetooth headsets, and a lot of other testing equipment we had in the environment that we had to go in and see how we could change our environment up to resolve that issue that we wouldn't have known about really without some more proactive tools in the system. So the intent goal was to say, hey, I want to make my environment healthier. And the outcome was seeing a lot of that visibility come from that solution set.
That is absolutely wonderful. I think it's great. You have so much passion about this and so much knowledge. If people want to learn more about what we're talking about today, where can they connect with you, either on social media or a website?
Oh, yeah. So I actually work in what's known as our Business Transformation Center. That is in our Ingram Micro Buffalo campus here. And what we have is a resource. Best way to reach it, actually, is if you go to your favorite search engine and search for Ingram Micro Business Transformation Center. You'll find all the information of the solutions and outcomes and approaches that we do support, which is the department I'm in, to really give you that experience where you can actually sign up for joining us for events like this, where you can come in and work with us, we can work on either a high-level overview of technologies, or we get into conversations that would actually be purpose-built for an opportunity that our partners may actually be working on, to the point where we do have customers that come into our offices and we work with them hands-on with the equipment and gear. So it's not just talking about it. They get the hands-on time with the demonstration of those products to see it for themselves. One other resource that I recommend also, part of our Ingram Micro group, is our Ingram Micro Cisco Partner Showcase. You can use that search in your favorite browser again, and that points you to a lot of the Cisco-specific resources that we do have here available for you, whether it be webinar series, trainings that are offered, enablement plans for partners, a lot of good resources that we can offer from there, again, that are more tailored specifically to the Cisco vendor.
Wonderful. One of the questions we ask all of the guests on this show is, where do you see technology going within the next year?
That is a interesting question. Technology, my background really is in wireless. So what I see is a continued drive into IoT. That is going to be everything. I mean, I look at my house that has smart connected light switches, smart connected outlets, smart connected thermostats, and that's all back-ended by a wireless infrastructure. When I installed wireless, it usually was a few devices. Initially, it was just like 2 tablets and maybe a phone. In 5 years, it now has, I think, like 30 devices all talking to my one access point. And that's just because we want to automate and get details of things in our environment. When I look at the facility that I work at, we see that even transforming into smart sensors for our power. We're putting sensors on our circuit breakers. We're putting sensors in our environment, all that talk to the wireless. Really seeing that evolution into that digital transformation. I'm transforming my house into a smart home. I'm transforming my business into a smart business. And that digital transformation, usually spearheaded by that term IoT, that's kind of the device and the realm around it. But the mindset of transforming my environment to gain data and insights and intelligence, and then use that to make changes, that's where I see a lot of this going. How can I reduce my power? How can I improve my security? How can I look at things in a different way to go and take all these data points, all this information that we're starting to gather from all of our smart devices, and it's only smart if you do something with that information. So that's what we're seeing, and I really see the technology going is using digital transformation, using that IoT play, but then taking that information and applying it to a business outcome to make a change because of it. And then we can report and say, wow, I've invested in technology, not just because it's cool, and it is, but it's going to have some sort of benefits. And then especially we talk to executives and my superiors, are looking at ways to how do we save money? How do we monetize this? How do we actually gain and recoup some value? And that's the way we look at it, is that data intelligence and using it for those types of analytics.
I love that. Thank you so much, Dan, for being here. You can feel your passion and energy for what you're talking about. And I think you gave a great overview of what enterprise networking is today. So thank you so much for being here.
You're very welcome. And thanks for having me, Carrie.
If you like this episode or have a question, join the discussion on Twitter at Ingram Tech Soul with the hashtag B2B Tech Talk. Thank you for tuning in and subscribing to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro.
You've been listening to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro, Cisco Edition, taking your business a level up, hosted by Carrie Roberts. B2B Tech Talk is a joint production by Sweetfish Media and Ingram Micro. Ingram Micro production handled by Laura Burton and Christine Fan. To not miss an episode, subscribe today in your favorite podcast platform.